James Hartley had never imagined that at 36 he'd be mopping marble floors in a downtown corporate tower. A few years ago, he had a carpentry business, a modest house, and a life he loved. But life, as it often does, had plans of its own. After a workplace injury that left his dominant hand weakened and his wife's sudden passing in a car accident, everything crumbled. The only thing that kept him going was his daughter, Lily, 6 years old, full of imagination and the only light left in his world. When the bills piled up and work ran dry, James swallowed his pride and took whatever job he could get. That's how he ended up working nights as a janitor at Luxora Inc., a billion-dollar tech corporation in the heart of the city. The irony wasn't lost on him. A man who once built beautiful wooden staircases was now scrubbing the steps of the elite. James didn't complain. He couldn't afford to. His daughter needed food, school supplies, and a stable roof over her head. So every evening after dropping Lily at his neighbor's, he put on his faded blue work shirt and reported for duty. He moved silently through the gleaming hallways, pushing his cart filled with supplies, glass cleaner, rags, disinfectants. He knew the floors, the office names, the nightly schedule. What he didn't expect to learn was the quiet rhythm of loneliness that echoed through a building full of success. One night, while polishing glass doors on the executive floor, James heard a frustrated sigh from inside the corner office. The door was slightly open, and he could see the back of a woman, tall, blonde, dressed in a sharp navy pantsuit, standing in front of a blinking printer. "Stupid machine," she muttered, smacking the side of it gently. James stepped in, politely. "Excuse me, ma'am, need help?" She turned, clearly startled. Yes, actually. I've tried everything." James gave a small smile and approached the machine. "These models overheat when the trays aren't aligned. Mind if I take a look?" In less than a minute, he had it running. The woman watched, in amazement as the printer whirred to life. "Well," she said, a little surprised, "looks like I needed more than an MBA to solve that." James chuckled, wiping his hands. "Sometimes all it takes is patience and a bit of common sense." She extended her hand. "Meredith Cole, CEO." James hesitated, wiping his palm before shaking hers. "James Hartley. Night shift." She raised an eyebrow. "You've got skill. Ever worked with tech before?" "I used to be a carpenter," he said, "but life changed." Meredith didn't pry, but something about his calm voice and kind eyes lingered with her. Over the next few weeks, they crossed paths more than once. She was often the last one in the building, and he was always quietly working in the background. She'd offer him a coffee once in a while, which he politely declined. He was too humble to assume anything beyond respect. But Meredith began to notice him. She noticed how he fixed a broken cabinet that wasn't his responsibility, how he tucked a lost phone into the receptionist's drawer with a sticky note saying, "Found this by the elevator, stay safe." How he once brought an umbrella to a young intern caught in the rain outside the building. And more importantly, she noticed how his face softened any time he talked about his daughter. One evening, she found him humming a lullaby while wiping down the glass wall outside her office. "Do you sing?" she asked curiously. He stopped, a little embarrassed. "Just lullabies. For Lily, my daughter. Helps her sleep when I'm away." Meredith leaned against the doorway. "You're a good father," James smiled faintly. "Trying my best. It's just her and me now." That night, Meredith couldn't focus on her reports. Something about James stayed in her mind, his quiet strength, his honesty, and the fact that in a world filled with people chasing titles and bonuses, here was a man doing hard work with grace and no complaints. The next day, she asked HR for his file, not out of protocol, but out of curiosity. She learned that he never missed a shift, that he once covered for 2 other staff members without asking for overtime. that he had declined several offers for transfer to better locations because they interfered with his daughter's daycare hours. Meredith felt something shift inside her. She had met 1,000 executives, but none had shown the character she saw in James. And James, he had no idea he was being noticed, no idea that his acts of quiet kindness were being remembered, no idea that the woman who ruled the 49th floor was beginning to admire something far beyond his ability to fix printers. But change was coming, and not just in his job. James returned to work the following night with the same routine. He had no clue that the short hallway chats and printer-fixing favors were slowly carving a space in the heart of Meredith Cole, the CEO of Luxora Inc., a woman who had built her empire on logic, numbers, and an iron will. Meredith, on the other hand, couldn't focus that evening. She sat at her desk, the city lights glowing behind her, staring at a report she'd read 3 times. It wasn't the data that preoccupied her. It was him, James Hartley, a janitor, a single father, a man who should have blended into the background, but instead had become unforgettable. She wasn't sure what it was exactly. Maybe it was the way he listened with his full attention, or how he spoke about his daughter like she was his whole world, or how he moved with quiet confidence, never expecting praise. Later that week, she did something she never did. She stayed late for no reason other than hoping she'd run into him. And she did. James was on the far end of the corridor, fixing a loose panel near the water cooler. Meredith hesitated, then approached. "You fix more than you clean," she said with a soft smile. James looked up. "Bad habit, I guess. Can't stand things left broken." She leaned against the wall. "Maybe that's why I keep seeing you around." He smiled back, unsure if that was a compliment or just casual banter. "I try to be useful." "Have dinner with me," she said suddenly. He froze. "Sorry?" She cleared her throat, suddenly aware of how bold it sounded. "I meant, I was going to order in, thought maybe you'd join me, just dinner, I could use the company." James was stunned. I'm flattered, but I'm just—" "James," she interrupted, her tone firm but kind. "Don't say just anything. You're a good man. That's more than I can say for half the people I know with executive titles." After a long pause, he nodded. "All right, dinner sounds nice." They ate in her office, sharing Thai food and laughter over parenting struggles. James spoke about Lily's obsession with dinosaurs, and Meredith revealed her own lonely childhood, raised by nannies and maids. For the first time in a long time, she felt like someone saw her, not just the CEO. Their late-night dinners became a quiet routine. Sometimes they talked about books, sometimes life. Occasionally they sat in silence, just enjoying each other's presence. James never crossed any lines. He didn't flirt or flatter. He simply listened, understood. And Meredith? She began to wait for those moments more than she cared to admit. One night, as they shared a quiet coffee on the rooftop garden, away from the eyes of the world, she finally asked him, "What would you do if things were different?" He looked out over the skyline. "I'd build things again, not just wood, maybe something bigger, something for Lily, a legacy." She nodded thoughtfully. "You've built something more than that, James. You've built character. And your daughter sees that?" "I see that." He turned to her, surprised. "Why me? Why notice me at all?" She smiled sadly. "Because in a world full of people chasing power, you walk with purpose. You fix things, James. Not just broken panels, but people, me." In that moment, something shifted. She reached out, brushing his hand lightly. He didn't pull away. That night changed everything. Over the next few weeks, whispers began to circulate in the building. The CEO was spending time with the janitor. But Meredith didn't care. For the first time, she followed her heart, not her PR team. She promoted James, not because of favoritism, but because she discovered he had real skills. She assigned him to head of facilities operations and arranged for technical training on the side. He was shocked, hesitant at first, but she insisted, "This isn't charity, you've earned this." With the promotion came better pay, health benefits, and most importantly, time to spend with Lily. She noticed her dad smiling more, cooking again, even singing louder than usual. One afternoon, Meredith stopped by James's modest apartment. Lily opened the door and said shyly, "Are you the nice lady who brings daddy food?" Meredith laughed, kneeling. "I am, and you must be the dinosaur expert." Lily giggled. From that day on, Meredith became a regular visitor, sometimes helping with homework, sometimes bringing over cupcakes. What started as an unlikely friendship turned into a gentle, respectful, and deeply supportive love story. Months later, as spring bloomed over the city, James stood beside Meredith at a Luxora Company gala, not in a cleaner's uniform, but in a tailored navy suit. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was simply being himself. Yet beside the polished executives and tech millionaires, he stood out, not because of money, but because of authenticity. As they stepped out onto the terrace, Meredith looked at him with pride. "You've come so far." James looked back at her. "I didn't do it alone." She shook her head. "You did. I just happened to witness it." He smiled and reached for her hand. "Then I'm lucky you were watching." They kissed softly, and the city faded behind them.